When it comes to the stock market, it has been the biggest wealth creation tool that we have ever seen. We have seen millionaires turned into billionaires, billionaires soon to be with the rise of AI into trillionaires. Now, in today's video, we're going to be looking at some high yield dividend stocks that you want to invest in. Now, there are a couple things to remember. Dividend stock investing is a little bit different than the growth stocks. Dividends actually make a company or have a company is taking the option of giving dividends back to their shareholders versus taking those funds and reinvesting them into the company themselves, meaning that you are getting a passive income. Now, it's very dependent on when these companies are paying out dividends. They usually do have an ex-dividend date where you do have to hold and own the stock. Now, of course, there are a couple different ways. I want to break down how to invest in the individual dividend stocks first. Then we'll get into the list of the top 10 that I have here. Now, of course, down below, we do have M1 Finance. If you open an account with M1 Finance and fund it, you can go ahead and you can buy dividend stocks. You can hold them. You can break them up into up to 100 stocks in a portfolio. M1 breaks them down and they're in pies. So you can go through, you can buy ETFs, you can buy individual stocks, you can even buy the ETFs when it comes to cryptocurrency. So let's go ahead and get into these high dividend stocks, starting with number one, which is Altrio. The ticker symbol for this is MO. Now this, of course, is Marlboro cigarettes. They have not only the cigarettes, but they also have a very big stake in smokeless tobacco, and they also have a very sizable stake in Anheuser-Busch, which we know makes Bud and Bud Light. And overall, they have a dividend payout of 9.4%, which is absolutely unheard of. That means when it comes to the revenue base, when it comes to dividend generation, they're giving 9.4% back to the shareholders. Now, one thing to note with this company, in the past 54 years, that is right, more than most of us have been alive, but for the past 54 years, they have paid out dividends 58 times. So when you're thinking of a company that is very consistent, not only paying a very high annual dividend yield, it is incredible to see that they have paid it out for that long. Number two, we look at Devon Energy. Now, Devon Energy, a producer of oil, natural gas, has a big portfolio in the United States based out of Oklahoma with a dividend yield of 6.9%. And the ticker symbol for this is DVN. Now, of course, they have went ahead and increased this payout structure. Annual dividend is 2.87 per share. Now, one thing to also remember is the price of the shares. When you're in there and you're looking at dividend stocks, this is really important because the more you own of the shares of the stocks, for instance, if a stock is $500 that you're going to own one share versus a stock that's $50 that you're going to own 10 shares, this can really make a big difference when it comes to the payout that you're going to be receiving. Number three, we look at Dow Inc., which is DOW, dividend yield of 5.2%. This, of course, is a mass producer of different chemicals used in a variety of industries. They have specialized packaging, specialized plastic, and they are headquartered in Midland, Michigan. That's right, they are right here in Michigan, definitely making number three at a 5.2% dividend yield. Then we get into IBM, that is right, International Business Machines, ticker symbol IBM, dividend yield of 3.6%. This is one of the largest tech companies in the United States, with more than 2/3 of the revenue coming from software and consulting services. They have paid dividends for 100 consecutive years, which again is kind of crazy. Dividend yield of a 3.6%, annual dividend $6.64, or yeah, $6.64 on the annual dividend there. Now, one of the fan favorites, and of course, the telecommunication leader, Verizon Communications, VZ, is the leader in communication and technology services, along with AT&T and T-Mobile. They pretty much run everything in the United States, generating more than $135 billion in 2023, which is kind of crazy. Dividend yield on this one, 6.3% as well, but the annual dividend, 2.66. So they have a very, very big high dividend yield, and overall the annual amount 2.6. So again, they're giving 6.3% of the revenue back to the shareholders, which is awesome to see. And I know a lot of people invest in this one. AT&T with the ticker symbol T, another telecommunications giant. When you look at them, they're right around the same build, except it seems like Verizon is quite a bit considerably bigger than AT&T from looking at my research. So this one, of course, the company gave some dividend assets, cut the dividend to focus on the 5G investment. Like we had said before, when you look at a company like AT&T, you really have two options. Number one, you're going to give dividends back to your shareholders in the form of just money that they're getting back. Or two, I'm going to cut those dividends to reinvest into the company itself. So overall, in the future, hopefully I can pay a lot more dividends and the stock price will go up a lot because they are investing in the 5G network. Number 7, we get into Prudential Financial, PRU. This is a global financial service company, which we've seen before, has nearly $1.4 trillion in asset management under them. Now, they do pay a 4.9% yield with an annual dividend of $5 for the PRU. Then we get into Philip Morris International as number 8. Again, this is another one that we've seen, sells cigarettes and the smokeless tobacco. You can see some of those are the communication companies. Some of them are the cigarette companies. Philip Morris International, PM is the ticker symbol on this one. They're gearing towards a lot more of smoke-free products and also products that don't have the same health risks that we see with traditional cigarettes. Dividend yield on this one, 5.6%, with an annual dividend of $5.20, $5.20. Then we look at Walgreens. This one makes me a little bit nervous. If you're investing in Walgreens Boots Alliance, the WBA, a lot of the Walgreens around our location have actually closed. So they do operate pharmacies across US, Europe, and Asia. Their business is they gave about 35 million COVID vaccines, which is kind of crazy. And the dividends go back to 1989. So not paying quite as much as all of the competitors that we're seeing on this list, but overall still pretty good at a dividend yield of 4.3%, annual dividend of $1. And then the final one we look at is, of course, the staple 3M company, ticker symbol MMM. This uses and they create an insane lineup of business products, consumer products. They are headquartered out of Minnesota, base product building everything from building materials, electronic components, orthopedics, orthodontics. Everything is their Scotch tape, M3. M3 has paid a dividend for more than 100 years. So it is actually one of the longest paying companies that I believe are on this list, paying dividends for more than 100 years on this one. Dividend yield 6.3%, annual dividend of $6. At the bottom line, guys, if you're looking for dividend stocks, definitely a couple to hold. Now, what I do generally is, because I do not purchase individual stocks, I would group these together or buy and look at some of the ETFs that are paying pretty good dividends. Overall, if you want to invest in individual companies, do your research and do a lot of research, because what can happen, especially bigger tobacco product companies, things of that nature, is it can go south pretty quick. And if you have all your eggs in one basket, it can be very detrimental to your portfolio. So even if you're going in and buying individual stocks, again, do a lot of your research. But I would also put a very small percentage of what you're looking to invest into these dividend yields. I know a couple individuals that do hold these dividend yielding stocks themselves, and they hold them in a pretty big manner, meaning that they have a considerable amount of their portfolio invested in them. And again, if some of these do go south, it is a very, very quick and rocky road when they are losing out on some of the dividend stocks, but also you're not seeing the growth. So majority of dividend stocks work incredibly well in rising inflation, because a lot of companies will see the stock market tumble like we did in 2022, went down 20+%. Most of the dividend stocks don't fall that much. We don't see quite the very high variation when it comes to the companies, making them a little bit better to invest in. But guys, that'll do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.